What's up, guys? Hello for Football Talk here. We came into week 5 with 4 teams on the bye week and 2 of the league's top 4 quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow currently injured. Yet the NFL did not disappoint with the play at the game's most important position. So what I want to do here is talk about what I considered the top 5 quarterback performances of the week, break down my 3 or 4 favorite plays for each of them, and talk about how they all impressed me in different ways. I don't want to waste any time here and get straight to the tape, but let me just quickly ask you that if you like this kind of content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more if this is your first time on my channel. I do want to throw out 3 honorable mentions here. Firstly, the Texans' CJ Stroud having by far his best showing of the season, although it came against the Ravens' practice squad defense almost, with how many guys they were missing at all 3 levels. Nevertheless, posted the high success rate of the week at nearly 73%, same number of touchdowns as incompletions at 4, along with a long scramble. Then Daniel Jones in a 40-6 beatdown of the Raiders, another team that didn't show a whole lot of resistance, but Indiana Jones was just chipping away short completions into soft spots against his own coverages, allowing his receiving corps to run after the catch, never putting the ball in harm's way in a matchup that they dominated, scoring 6 straight touchdowns after an initial 3 and out. And lastly, Jared Goff, as the Lions flew to Cincinnati and took care of business. Final score is deceiving because this was another complete mismatch, lots of condensed formations, motions and play action, where Goff just operates the offense at such a high level from the pocket, ball on the money over and over again, and I continue to be impressed by how good they've been since week 1 at Green Bay. With that, let's start at number 5 with Dak Prescott, who traveled to the Meadowlands to take on the lowly Jets on Sunday, who thanks to his help are now the only winless team remaining across the NFL, but it's the efficiency at which Dak operated, accounting for 264 yards and 4 touchdowns on just 33 dropbacks, including a pair of 40+ yard completions, which we'll start with here. This first one comes on the 3rd and 6, trips to the left, where Dallas motions Jalen Tolbert into this detached bunch, and release him underneath it, on the shallow cross, along with the 2 other receiving options to that side, breaking inside at about 10 yards, with a skinny post from the X that is basically just clearing out space, as the Cowboys will rotate down this boundary safety and play cover 1 robber, meaning it's man coverage across the board, along with 1 safety high and the other one dropping down to help catch these guys working across the field. Number 21, Brandon Stevens, is going to be caught in a tough position, trailing Tolbert at full speed all the way across the formation, so that's why Tony Adams decides to help as he steps down here. So Dak, after looking that way, resets and hits one of the breakout performances of the week from a 6th round pick Ryan Flournoy on the second man of the progression, who turns this up the sideline for a 40-yard gain, breaking a tackle and then just getting caught from behind. Check it out from the endzone angle again. It's a 5-step drop. You can see the safety step down as he basically double the shallow. So Dak pivots to the right and puts it on Flournoy's face mask after allowing him to gain a little bit of separation late, and he's nearly off for a touchdown. 3rd quarter now, already up 23-3 on this 1st and 10. They go for the kill shot. Tight ends to either end of the line in this condensed formation, as they sell run action to the left for basically a 2-man concept, along with the back flaring out into the flats, with some kind of streak grab by George Pickens at the bottom of the screen, and then a deep cross from the right side. As you can see here, Pickens does take the outside release, but as the safety to his side steps down, what I'd still call cover 3 here, there's now going to be all this space one-on-one down the field, with the other safety and corner basically bracketing the receiver on the deep over route. So that gives Pickens a chance by allowing his receiver to hand fight and slightly push off for some late separation and haul on this high-arcing 43-yard touchdown. Seems to me that the Jets got caught in a bad spot, as the pocket is pristine for Dak, as we'll see in a second, and they kind of scramble on the back end, and he lets his top receiver without CeeDee Lamb win against Sauce Gardner down the field for a huge score. And then I threw in this 14-yard scramble on a 2nd and 10. Jets presents this 5-man surface, tight end a little check motion to indicate that they're playing man coverage, where number 44 will peel off with the running back, as the Jets are actually playing 2-man here, meaning man coverage across the board once again with 2 high safeties, something typically reserved for always passing situations against the quarterback you don't respect as a runner. No need to really drop anything here, as the Cowboys have the 3 receivers operating about the 10 to 15 yard range, along with the dump off options to either flat with the tight ends and the running back. But that now creates all this space for Dak, who they're not accounting for, who hitches up and takes advantage of it for a nice gain. Watch it from this perspective, Dak nicely navigating this TE twist that they have drawn up here, with the other D tackle crossing the center's face on a stunt, as he's gonna have that little motion to make sure what he's seeing here. Feels this twist happening, hitches up, around, and eats up all that green grass in front of him. Along with that, he once took off when the Jets rotated into Tampa 2 by bailing out the nickel at the snap. Another time they ran a bootleg that was well covered up, and Dak made something happen to keep the offense on track. So certainly not a big rushing threat ever since he suffered that bad ankle injury, but he's a robot at the position, playing at as high a level as he ever has, and if you give him such a simple answer, he's going to take it. Bringing us to number 4, as we go all the way back to last Thursday night, with Mac Jones against the Rams, who went 33 of 49 with a cast of receivers who weren't even on the active roster back in week 1, yet somehow they were able to pull off the upset in LA. Mac excelled with quick decision making, identifying voided space in zone coverage, and he was pretty aggressive attacking past the chains before they got the third down. Kyle Shanahan certainly worked his magic, with as many motions as I've seen from him in a while, creating easy access for his receivers, different scheme variations and more. But let's get to this first clip. On a 2nd and 7, he gets a 13-yard completion to DeMarcus Robinson on a comeback at the sideline. On a comeback at the right sideline, lets this go from his own 3-yard line ultimately, at the left hash, with pressure right in his face by rookie outside linebacker Josiah Stewart. As the Rams also run a TE twist at the bottom of the screen, and he actually gets called for roughing the pass on this one, so another 15 yards added on top of the completion. But check out how he gets blasted here, yet stands in strong and delivers a dart to Robinson, who just returned from injury last week. Next one on a 2nd and 9, a 16-yard completion to Kendrick Bourne, off a token run fake to the right, with the tight end as the only eligible otherwise that way on a curl. They have this wrap element between numbers 2 and 3 to the trip side, where the innermost receiver runs his return route back to the inside, holding down the hook defender for Bourne coming in behind it on the dig, along with a hitch or quick in by the flanker, where Bourne is working away from his man to the inside, but enough space to wet his safety to the field side, stepping down as the once again in cover 1 robber can't quite get there in time. And that has something to do with Mac's eyes, which I'll show again in a second here, but just rips this right on the last step of his drop. As we flip things around here now, check out Jones' helmet as number 3 steps down here to be the robber, forcing him to open to the right initially, looks at his number 3 receiver for a moment, but it's Bourne coming into his vision to where he actually doesn't really have to reset, and he puts the ball right in the numbers for Bourne. Big one here, 3rd and 10, he makes it look easy with an 11-yard completion to Jake Tongas, who they motion over from a condensed 2x2 into a 3x1 set to the left, along with bumping one of the receivers outside to change up the numbers here, and they use both those guys on the perimeter to stretch the defense vertically, while they tag number 2 with a deep in-breaking route. But as the zone defenders disperse, with the Rams playing Camp 2, Mac actually hits the tight end on the late release of the chip, right over the middle into that voided space, with the 2 hook defenders gaining width as they have this deep middle help, and Tongas is going to fight ahead for the first down marker. I know this doesn't look like high-end stuff necessarily, and it's certainly not a difficult throw, but to identify it this quickly, just one bounce at the top of his drop, and throw an easy ball for his guy who can now do the work, that's high-level execution. And to cap things off on a 3rd and 1, near zone goal line again, Jones hits Kendrick Bourne on another in-cut for 18 yards, as they clear out for Christian McCaffrey on a quick out, but then have this tight end bending inside of the linebacker to open up the window for the star receiver of the day, plus a hitch by the flanker. Right as Mac hits his back foot on the 5-step drop, he rips it in there and they move the chains, as they put together a long field goal drive, starting from their own 2-yard line, that put them up by 3. The Rams would answer, but then get stopped on 4th and short in overtime, following the Niners putting another field goal on the board for one of the signature wins of Kyle Shanahan's career with the team, for as successful as they've been during his tenure, just considering how incredibly banged up they were coming into this matchup against the division rivals on a short week at their place. Which leads us to the first of 2 names from the incredible Sunday afternoon matchup in Seattle, as the Bucs traveled there, but we'll actually start with the Seahawks Sam Darnold, who narrowly ended up on the losing side of what turned out to be a 38-35 shootout. Before we get into it, in this matchup, we saw 9 combined touchdowns compared to only 10 incompletions. Both quarterbacks threw for 325 plus yards and completed over 80% of the passes, the first time that has happened in NFL history, and Darnold now is actually the #1 EPA per play across the entire NFL. Opening drive for the Seahawks, 1st and 10, he gets a 24-yard completion to Cooper Kupp, then 12 personnel, condensed formation with a tight end to either end of the line, with this one to the right offset, who they use along with the left guard to sell this GF power to the left, and then basically run a 2-man concept before the tight end, AJ Barner, and the back sneak out late, almost like Spear, where you typically put pressure on the single high safety, forcing him to decide which crossing route he's going to shade over the top of, but they actually cross short of 10 yards here initially, and both corners actually do a great job of staying attached to their man, requiring a perfect throw from Sam, which he delivers to Kupp, taking this a little higher, and it's going to be a great throw and catch at the sideline from the veteran receiver. Watch it again from the end zone angle to see Darnold hitch into this, and then the incredible ball location to defeat tight coverage. That is beautiful stuff. Next one on 2nd and 1, and they take a shot. 53-yard completion to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Another 2 tight end set, and again it's a 2-man concept, plus the back leaking out into the flats late. Simple switch release at the bottom of the screen with the 2 receivers, potentially Kupp having the option to snap this off at the sideline. But shockingly they're attacking number 31, the all-pro safety, Antoine Winfield Jr., expecting him not to be comfortable with turning, running, and having to relocate this football, because the guy on the receiving end in JSN has some of the best ball tracking skills you're going to see from any receiver. Love the aggressiveness on this, the air under the ball slightly to the outside, and the adjustment by Smith-Njigba to cash in for an explosive play. This really speaks to the haymakers these 2 quarterbacks were trading all game long. Beautiful pocket for Darnold, and you can tell the confidence offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak has in the 2 guys on either end of this to take that shot. Then on 1st and 10, on the eventual final touchdown drive for Seattle, we get a 22-yard completion to JSN again, and once more with a tight end to either end of the line, plus the 2 wide receivers to the right in the super condensed set with a tight bunch to the right. This feels a little more bunched up altogether in terms of route spacing than you probably like it to be, as the Hawks fake split zone to the strong side and then boot Darnold the other way off it, where the sifting tight end keeps going to the flats, the other one runs a corner route, and you're bringing both receivers across at about 10 to 12 yards of depth. The tight end on the line of scrimmage, AJ Barner, he's going to get bumped inside by this outside linebacker, which leads to Cooper Kupp almost running into him, and basically now already the only throw available is to JSN about to enter this window between the 2 hook defenders, as the Bucks are in cover 3. Sam wants to go to Kupp here originally, I think, as he sees the corner to the short side of the field gaining depth, but he's going to reset and fire a bullet to his top receiver into a closing window with 3 defenders converging on it to get them past midfield. Check out how Darnold comes out of the zone action on the boot, but then he's going to whip his hips around to get back to his final option on the progression per se, and fast his laser into him. Love it. Also gets hit in the head for an extra 15 yards on top of it. And finally, on 4th and 2, Seattle comes out in 11 personnel this time, with Cooper Kupp as a hip slot to the left, with him motion across, and uses a fast thread to the flats to occupy the underneath coverage, while running another crossing element by the 2 remaining receivers, plus a little sit down by the tight end off the chip. Once again, they're attacking the single high structure, although the boundary corner seems to be wanting to pass this off as if they're in cover 3, but instead trusts one of these shallow zone defenders to run with the under route. You'll see number 15 do a good job of navigating around traffic, and he gets lost here. Pretty wide open for a touchdown. But I need you to see that muddy pocket Darnold navigates here in order to get the ball out. 8 bodies around the line of scrimmage. The O-line and tight end operate as if there was more of an actual run fake, as the left tackle sets pretty softly and allows the edge rusher to turn the corner on him, and the guy on the opposite end of the line fights for the chip to also apply pressure, so Sam has to step up and then away from him as he avoids the cut block by the running back, pulls his leg out of that guy's grasp, and then floats the ball to another rookie in Troy Horton, who ends up scoring from 21 yards out. Unfortunately, when Seattle got the ball next, with a chance to put together a game-winning drive, The quarterback gets pretty unlucky, as he has a pass he's trying to dirt at the feet of his receiver, batted up for a Lavonte David interception, which sets up the deciding field goal the opposite way. So let's get to a different man who was able to lead his team to a huge victory on the road as an underdog, and that is Maye at Buffalo on Sunday night. The Pats run a lot of these big concepts, with the second-year quarterback turning his back to the defense on play action, with 2 or 3 eligibles in the pattern, and maybe a check down option emerging late. Paired with that were some timing routes on the perimeter, quick game, and it seemed like Buffalo's game plan revolved around flushing Drake out to his right repeatedly, but he punished him for it, delivering several key throws on the run. This first one on 2nd and 15 is a 22-yard completion to Hunter Henry. The Pats actually had 22 personnel, with 2 tight ends plus the fullback in a tight bunch to the right, who they motion across and run this free-level concept off the soft dive fake to the left, with the only wide receiver, Maye Collins, on the high 7 route, Henry on the deep cross at about 20 yards of depth, and then his fullback, or offset wing in this case, flaring out into the flats. The linebackers aren't fooled at all here, and what this look dictates, or at least should, to Maye, is to just take this dump off to the fullback in the flats and get you into a further manageable situation, but Maye isn't content with that, so he's going to float this perfect ball to Henry over the heads of the second level defenders without forcing him to drift into the deep help that is coming here down late. And it's a beautiful chunk play. Watch it one more time here, and the body language of the quarterback, who has his base pointed to the flats the whole way before saying, "Nope, I can lay this ball over your heads for a chunk play," and that's exactly what he does with a soft touch throw and a beautiful completion. Then on 2nd and 9, we all remember this one, throw it to a completion to Stephon Diggs, where it's another under center play action, with 2 tight ends to the right, along with Diggs on the short motion towards it, the 2 wide receivers on deep stop routes at about the 20-yard line, expecting cover 3, which is exactly what they're getting from Buffalo. Not sure Drake needs to escape the pocket here, and maybe he could fit in this throw that does take some time to develop out of the break here to Diggs. But he drifts out to the right, Stephon works with him, turning up and to the sideline with the post safety closing down. Almost on a dead sprint with this D-end closing down after dropping into coverage initially. He leads Diggs having to accelerate here all the way out to the sideline with a perfect throw. This is something we typically see from the guy on the other side of the field in Josh Allen, drifting out to the sideline, navigating traffic, and throwing these balls that most guys in the league wouldn't even attempt. And it's just perfect. Now on 1st and 10 on the initial snap of the 4th quarter, we get another 24-yard completion to Hunter Henry, split backfield from pony personnel, so tailbacks flank to either side of the quarterback. Maye has this alert fade by the ex-receiver against a true 1-on-1, as the Bills initially have that boundary safety down in the box, but you already see him kind of bailing out into a deep half at the snap as they're actually playing cover 2. So as he sees this, Drake is going to come back to the stagger concept by the twin side, where tight end Hunter Henry is supposed to split these safeties if they get to his coverage, but more importantly just clear out space for the wideout coming in behind it on a deep in cut. Yet what the young quarterback sees here are these hook zone defenders drifting towards it, and then the Bills don't actually have a pole runner carrying Henry up the seam. So what does Drake do here as he sees this? He resets and fires this ball onto the numbers of his tight ends, which isn't even truly part of the progression, keeping the throw short so where the safeties can't converge on him in time for a big time completion. Check out how he gets to this, shuffling a little bit to the left as he moves off the fade, finds a new platform to release this from, and almost wraps this ball around the D-tackle, going airborne to bat this pass down. Insane decision kind of, and also the placement here. And then I just quickly wanted to throw in 2 more plays here from the final game-winning field goal drive. 1st and 10 on this one, getting the ball back just before the 2-minute warning, with the score tied at 20. Nothing really to draw up here for anyone who remembers this, as the Patriots mess up here trying to move Maye's launch point with a couple of pullers to the right, but they have a D-tag almost coming unblocked, trying to drag him down, yet he's somehow strong enough to not only get rid of the ball, but actually complete it to Diggs, who's able to turn it into a nice gain. What should happen here is the center blocking back on his free technique with the 2 pullers, but design-wise it probably would make more sense to shift the responsibility onto the left guard, because he has an easier angle, Doesn't happen, yet the young quarterback somehow bails them out anyway, getting help from his veteran receiver, who moves the chains here. And lastly, on a 2nd and 9, instead of just running out clock, they put the game in Drake's hands. 1:25 left in the 4th quarter, 3-1 set with a tight end as the single receiver to the left. He's got a little hitch on the backside, same route from number 3 to the field. Number 2 is working straight out to the flats, and in case Sean Booty is going up the sideline against his cover 2 look for Buffalo, Drake is going to see that this field side corner is kind of squatting on the flats. Safety inside the numbers here, so he's not quite far enough outside to expand against his fade route. So off a little hitch, he drives this hole shot to the flanker, stopping him inside that window before the clouding safety can get over there and disrupt the catch point. And they get a nice chunk out of it to put them into field goal range. No hesitation on the decision as he sees the corner trying to cheat, safety not quite far enough outside, and he hits this whilst taking a shot himself. I thought Drake was already off to an excellent start in his sophomore campaign as a pro, but he truly announced himself to the rest of the football world by outplaying the MVP on Sunday night at his building as part of a statement win over the previously undefeated Bills. But now let's get to number 1, and that was Baker Mayfield at Seattle. The Bucs only averaged 2.3 yards per carry, but they still ran the ball 24 times to keep Seattle's defense honest and facilitate the play-action game where they regularly used pullers and moved Baker's launch point just a little bit. Tampa did a lot of clearing out zone defenders and attacking those voided areas, along with receivers settling down between the 2nd and 3rd level, but it did require several big boy throws from the guy about as willing at the position to rip those as anyone in the league right now. This first one on the 3rd and 4 is actually an 8-yard scramble, which has become a bigger part of Mayfield's game since last season. Seahawks do a great job of leaving very little air in his cover 3, but as they slant these rushers inside to the quarterback's right side, he gets around it and upfield, sliding for a new 1st down. A little more suddenness to him than many people might have given him credit for. Recognizing what is happening inside here, nobody's keeping contain, and then crosses up number 13 Ernest Jones, trying to corral the scrambling quarterback after dealing with the shallow cross. Now let's get the laser show started. 1st and 10, 24-yard completion to Emeka Egbuka, where they start in this sort of loose bunch to the left, and motion the flanker Sterling Shepard across to give him a head start into this clear out route for Egbuka on the out and up. Plus they have a 15-yard in cut from the opposite side coming across as they fake this sort of G-lead action to the right. Really what this is all about as Seattle rotates the boundary safety down into cover 3 weak buzz is Shepard pushing up the numbers, forcing the corner in his deep third responsibility to squeeze inside and carry this, while the flat defender coming down here doesn't have vision on Egbuka now. But what I want you to check out is the savviness of the rookie receiver to pace his routes here and not blindly run into this corner that is starting to realize what's going on, as this almost becomes a hole shot like you'd have in cover 2. Baker with the perfect trajectory, stopping his receiver with the throw at the sideline that has just enough loft on it. Again, motion across, pull the backside guard, nice pocket for Baker to step up into, and it's a perfect ball or the flat defender before the corner can close down on it. Now 3rd and 15 midway through the 3rd quarter, with a 20-yard touchdown to Egbuka, they started more of a narrow empty set. Motion Rashad White back into the backfield to have that extra man protection, along with this detached bunch to the right, as they run basically a Mills concept to the field, with a short up and number 3, and a shallow cross from the opposite side by the X. Only Egbuka as the flank on the outside is going to take this a little steeper on the post. The Seahawks maintain that quarters look that they present at the snap, but as soon as that field side safety shuffles inside a couple of steps, Baker fires the ball to Egbuka on the deep post, who has the advantage to the inside against the corner, playing off and outside. A concept he already used for the game-winning touchdown back in week 1 against Atlanta, by the way. Watch it one more time from Baker's perspective. This, by the way, marks his 6th touchdown pass of 20 plus yards on the season already. Only one other quarterback even has more than 3 so far, as Baker kind of takes this loose 5-step drop from shotgun, but then no hitch as he gets to the top of it, and it's a bullet to a standout rookie. 3rd and 13 next, a 57-yard completion to Egbuka. This is why I kind of regret not sticking with my original idea of giving this game its own video and going through it chronologically, because on the previous Seahawks drive, Sam Darnold lets that one ball fly to Jackson Smith-Njigba for over 50 yards to set up a touchdown. When the Bucs end up in 3rd and long, short of midfield themselves, Baker unleashes this bomb to his former Ohio State receiver on a post route at the bottom of the screen, as he sees the Hawks back in cover 4, paired with this deep levels concept to the field, along with a lead swing element, with the tight end working out the way off the chip. Probably based on his last touchdown, you see the boundary safety with his eyes towards the field, trying to poach whoever's coming across first. But this is not the type of quarterback you can sort of cheat against, as he sees this and uncorks the deep bomb to Ibuka to set up his offense inside the opposing 5-yard line. Great job again by the O-line of picking up this game up front and keeping Baker clean, giving him time to step into this bomb, and Rachaad White will punch in a touchdown 2 plays later. Last but not least, the Bucs' final touchdown of the day, on a 2nd and 1 from 11 yards out, 2-2 set, the tight end at the back flank to the right, as this time they get all 5 eligibles out there in the pattern. With almost like a deep mesh concept over the middle, the tight end also angling back inside off the chip, and the back flaring out that way, while the wide receiver at the top of the screen, Sterling Shepard, theoretically is just running off coverage with the fade. Yet when this edge defender off Baker's blindside jumps inside of the left tackle, he feels it even though the guard is there to help, pivots around it, and fires another laser to Shepard, now helping him by working the back line of the end zone once he's reached that point, before this post safety can get over there since he's focused on that action over the middle, and it's a big time score. Great catch also by Shepard hanging on to this. Watch one more time here how he buys extra time, but then doesn't waste it by fully having to reset his throwing base, but rather just whips it in there to a guy he's worked magic with since the days together at Oklahoma. And that puts a cap on an incredible afternoon of football in the Pacific Northwest, elite jersey matchup, overall aesthetics, and quarterback play. By the way, I could have easily made a video about the top 5 wide receiver performances of the week as well, with those 2 former Ohio State guys going back and forth in this one, Kendrick Bourne having a career day on Thursday night, Stephon Diggs having a flashback showing against his former team, and one more of the other 20 total guys who went for 80 plus receiving yards through the air this past week. Which also brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the breakdown, please let me know by hitting the like button, and maybe also subscribing to the channel if this is your first time here. I release either a video or written article every single week basically. The last one was on Justin Herbert's phenomenal 3-0 start, who unfortunately has lost back-to-back games now, even though I certainly wouldn't put the majority of the blame onto him. And then over on my website, hellotofootballtalk.com, you can read up about some of the rising names for the 2026 draft already, along with making fun of me for last week's power rankings, considering 5 of the top 7 teams on there ended up losing. But that's what makes the league fun, as anything can happen in any given week, and we may see some quarterback performances that not everybody was anticipating. To bring it back to the theme of this video, I'll be back next week, probably in written form, not quite sure what I'll be talking about yet, as I do like to be a little more reactive during the NFL season, so you can click the little bell here, subscribe to my blog, and or follow me on my social media channels to stay up to date with everything I'm working on and more. The links to that are down below in the description. Hoping to have you along for the ride, and maybe hear from you in the comments about a performance or moment that stood out to you from week 5. So until then, see you later. Peace!